And we're live. Hello. Hey, welcome back to MoJOE Studio. This is Michael H Ballard, founder of Resiliency for Life. How you doing, Michael?
I am very well. As we were coming on the air, I was going to say congratulations to the graduate in your house.
Yes, that's right. Today we celebrated. My younger daughter finished elementary school, and so officially, as of today, she's a junior higher.
Well done. And I noticed all the smiles, so that's what I love to see.
Absolutely. Yeah, and considering all the challenges of trying to get through school during all the COVID restrictions, I just admire her resiliency and her grit, and the fact that she's persevered through all of that.
Yep, wise young lady. Obviously, she got some good parental teacher support too.
I don't know about that, but I'll take that. I'll take that all day long. Hey, for those of you that have tuned in, if you haven't met Michael before, Michael, give us a little bit about your background and how did you launch Resiliency for Life?
I got interested in resiliency after several episodes in my life where experts with good intentions said there's nothing I could do. So I had a concussion at an early age, chronic illness in my teens, and then I had cancer at 27 where the mental health expert with good intention told me I was too happy for what I was going through. And I was like, I could be dead in 6 weeks. I know I'm sick, but I was raised that it's okay to have a problem. It's not fun, but then what do you want to do about it?
Yeah.
Because you might not be able to financially do anything about it or physically do anything about it, but what are you going to do about it? Mm-hmm. And so resiliency is a process, a beliefs and value system, a mindset, and the key factors outside us and in us, and then a set of skills. And so I got really interested that despite having all experts in my life for my issues, none of them knew what I was talking about. And the most satisfying, sad thing was, it's great to have experts show up my bedside for mental health, but when they don't know what resiliency is, it was like, oh, what did you learn in your doctorate or your PhD? Like, this is wisdom from 2,000 and 5,000 years old. I mean, anyways. Yeah. So I decided that was my mission, because when they had no resiliency to offer me, I went, I can do this, because anybody that has nothing to offer, I can do better than nothing. I mean, it's only up from there. And then, of course, the research caught on. And now we're doing research on resiliency and thriving. And now the current buzzword, by the way, is flourishing.
Flourishing, yes.
Yes.
I love the word. Yeah.
I love it too. I like thriving, flourishing, resilience. Call me what you want. I don't care. But so that's got started. Since I've had big success at a personal level, my daughter's healthy and well, 38 years old this past week. But at 7, she had a brain tumor, and the experts were flummoxed because she's so calm. And then when she was being medically tested, she fell asleep in the test after she asked permission, which blew their minds. And I got the department head of psychotherapy saying this, what did you do to her? And I said, we didn't do anything to her. We did things with her. Why is your mental health programming reactionary? And then I made a frenemy.
Of course.
Your methodology is like giving the teenager the key to the car, and after they wrap the car around a tree and almost die, then you say, oh, we have therapy for you, and we're going to teach a driver's ed. Why don't you teach them skills beforehand, age appropriate, so they have choices? And this little red dot is from me talking to my daughter at 7 and say, and if you forget to practice these things, that's okay. Only we were in the midst of her having a brain tumor and a crisis, and I hit myself so hard I broke a blood vessel that's permanently never healed.
Wow, that's like a tattoo to remember that moment, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And one of my proud parenting moments, because we helped her learn how to be calm despite. And her social worker couldn't understand the calmness. And so I went, well, in 1915, and why don't you use the research? And in 1969, why don't you use the research? Now, that stuff from University of Chicago, it's 89. It's only 94. I can understand why you wouldn't use it. So I really made a frenemy enemy but if you're going to bring the finger out and saying, what have you done to her? I'm going to poke back and tell you that your professionalism is lacking and you've got gaps, especially in a world famous hospital that had millions on standby for programming.
You know, it's remarkable. It's remarkable, Michael, and your story and the stories that you've kind of brought together through your Resiliency for Life Facebook are really encouraging. And I'm seeing, as I read Resiliency for Life, and then I see all these other groups that I'm in, how absolutely vital and important resiliency is, because so many people, including myself, at times in life, when you face major issues, you don't have a roadmap. You don't know what the next steps are. You know, you don't like being stuck, but you don't know how to get out. And if you don't have a mentor, a guide, someone that has been through it and can say, yes, this is all real and I'm not going to minimize it, but here are the steps that you can take to go from, as you said last time, rather than the issue having you, you have the issue. And what do you do from it there?
Yes. So I always say, do you have the issue or does the issue have you? It's okay for the issue to own you for a minute, an hour, a day, but please don't live there. Ask for help. Own the issue. So again, in the hospital with my cancer issues, the therapists were like, but you've got cancer. The first time in, it's in 4 locations. You're really sick. You're going to die. Yeah, I know I'm going to die. So are you. We're just not sure when. But by me having a cancer, I had cancer as a part of my day. Yes, I'm in the cancer ward. Yes, I'm surrounded with really sick people, but I had still life going on around me. And being resilient, my parents taught me, ask for help. So I got a long distance bill that was the biggest one I've ever had before or since. And I found 197 friends, acquaintances, co-workers, former co-workers, neighbors, past and present, and said, I'm in deep. Got cancer. It's spread. If you can find the time, I want you to send me a note or a letter once a week, once a month, once every 2 months. And don't focus on per me. I don't want any per me. What's going on in your life that's good? Did the garden bulbs come up like you planned them, or did the squirrels eat them all?
Right.
Did the rose bushes come up this year after you had that black fungus issue? How's the kids at school? How's the job? I remember your spouse was up for a promotion. I started getting so many notes and letters. The hospital staff were like, should we know you? Are you on TV? Are you a celebrity on a U.S. channel? Are you hiding in our state or province? Right. I said, no, I'm scared. I'm blessed to have faith, but I was taught to ask for help specific ways. Yeah. Now, I have to tell you, viewers, especially that one that needs to hear this, be careful what you ask for. Yeah. My dad phoned and said, I feel helpless. My dad, you're 26, 27, and I'm the dad. It's not supposed to be you that gets sick. It's supposed to be me. I don't know what to do. Dad, you have that new intranet at your Fortune 500 company. You tell me you talk to men and women all over the world in the technical department. Tell them that your son wants to be in their prayer groups in their house of worship. Oh, okay. I said, tell him I need the wisdom to cope and I need prayers for healing. Forgot to ask for pain management.
All right. Yeah, the trifecta.
Yeah. So anyways, less than a week later, Dad said, you're in 60 plus houses of worship all over the world. You're in a Christian revival music hall in Texas, and you're in in Atlanta, Georgia. You're in a music hall of faith. You're in a synagogue in Israel. You're in 2 mosques in Pakistan. You're in a Hindu temple in India. And I was like, wow. And, honest to gosh, I started feeling like I was not walking on the ground anymore. I felt lifted up. Right. And that famous research from California by the cardiovascular surgeon back in the late 80s, early 90s. I'm sorry, I don't remember the name. He didn't believe in faith and prayer. It's useless. But as so many people ask me for it, I'm going to tell them, I'm going to get the proof to shut them up. They did a double-blind study or triple-blind study. There was patients that were being specifically prayed for right down to the types of symptoms and the type of recovery and surgery. People were being prayed for that didn't know who they were praying for except Fred, Susie, or John, just by a name in this hospital on this day. And then there was people who were just treated as regular patients. And what they found out was that the people who were prayed for specifically had less pain, faster healing, and less to no complications. The people who were prayed for but with less focus did far better than average, just not a half 1 percentage point less than the ones specifically prayed for. And the ones that just came in, well, they were being prayed for just by family, but they did better than the average of everybody. So the surgeon, now I'm told, I haven't gone back for 15 years to look at it, he has prayers before every surgery because this stuff works. It's science. Faith is science. So
yeah, you got results. Hey, man, I want people to not miss. You're giving some really good stuff here. And one of the things you've said already is that after that, you get the initial shock. You're kind of shaken and you don't know what to do. Then you realize, okay, I'm not going to let the thing get me. I'm going to get it. And the first thing you offered was ask for help. Now, it's not just asking for help, but as you have modeled, it's asking for help from many different sources. Because we all know that you can ask for help, and if you only ask one person and you ask the wrong person, you might get the exact wrong response that's really not helpful whatsoever.
Goose eggs or the wrong type of help.
Yeah.
So I once met somebody who was well-intentioned, and they were a volunteer, and they came to my bedside to talk about my faith. Well, by then I'd been in 4 times. So I am no expert on faith, but I live what I live to the best of my abilities and share. And out of that, the only thing I remember is she had a nice dress and nice shoes. Right. She hadn't taken a counseling course. She hadn't read a book. She was just well-intentioned. And so if she'd have just said, I'm here from this church to keep you company if you want a conversation, that'd have been great. But no, she was there to talk faith. So I asked some questions. She had nothing to talk about. It was like, oh, I'm being really polite. But anyways, great shoes, great dress. Don't remember a darn thing other than what a waste of well-intentioned time.
Right. And I do want to interject here. Okay, I do want to interject here before we move on that there is a thing called contact theory. You're probably familiar with this, that even by being present, you can provide help, right? You can provide an answer, or you can help the other person find the answer that they're looking for, even if you're not the expert. So there is something about just showing up, but there's also the danger of showing up and saying that you're an expert or that you have an answer when you really don't.
Yes, so her intentions were pure and good.
Yeah.
It's just that she was 100% underprepared. If she'd have just said, Michael, I'm visiting the ward tonight on behalf of the XYZ church. Do you have anything I can do to help? Anybody I can call? That had all been wonderful. But instead, she was an expert on faith and dying. Well, I asked some questions, and I wasn't trying to be difficult.
Yeah.
It's just that she was looking at the resident jokester faith guy, because I went room to room when I walked the ward just saying hello, and people would come out and join me. Well, you're sick. Yes, but I need to have a little bit of muscle tone for my body to recover. And it hurts like a son of a gun. But I was a jokester. I got a company expert, sent me a fern, but it wasn't just a fern. In $1980, it was $79. It was enormous and gorgeous, world class.
Wow.
You'd see it in somebody's palace of royalty. Yeah. It was that good. I hooked it on the other side of my IV pole and got an old IV line and mocked up, taped it to my arm and said, I'm doing green stuff therapy starting tomorrow. And went room to room, and some people were tired and drugged, and they went, wow, is it a new protocol? I said, only if you believe me being foolish. Then we'd have a chuckle. Right. So to have somebody come in trying to help, that was nice, but they meant well. I did have, you talk about contact therapy. I had a relative, Paul, always a blessing. He came with his 12-string guitar. Michael, you might want conversation, you might not. But with your permission, I'll stay and keep you company. Because I know Tuesdays your spouse doesn't come.
Yeah.
Paul stayed for 3-4 hours, played a couple of songs, provided a soothing presence, because he has a very soothing presence. I fell asleep for 2.5 hours. He said, oh, you're awake. I just came back using the washroom. I hope I didn't wake you by sitting down. I said, no, I know you sat down so quiet, you sucked sound out of the room and sitting down instead of adding to it. He played me 3 more songs. He gave me a pat, and off he went. And it was one of the most loving, nurturing gifts I've ever had. So you don't have to speak much to be a comfort.
Right. So even St. Francis is known as having said, at all times preach the gospel, and when necessary, use words. Right? That's what you say.
I have a neighbor that's got some memory issues. It's just starting. And so because of the pandemic, nobody can cross the border. I'm her honorary, self-appointed younger brother. At first, I told her I was her bigger brother, and I patted my belly and said, oh, wait a minute. No, I don't want to go there. I'm just your self-appointed brother, because their actual physical brother can't cross the border. And so we just hang out. We go for coffee. We have little chats, and we just sit on an outdoor bench when the weather's good for half an hour with 10 minutes of chatting, and that's it. Yeah. If she's having a bad day, I've been known to play the fool, make her laugh, and that's good too.
Sure.
Yeah, because she's very wise. She has a master's degree. She was quite a happening somebody up till she was 64, and then she retired. So she's had 24 years, and her wonderful man died 2 years ago. So, as she puts it, I'm in that part I've never looked forward to. I said, well, it's a new type of adventure, and I'll be the first to tell you that I agree it can be scary, but just think, you're stuck with me now.
Yeah, right. When my wife's dad passed away suddenly, we'd only been married a little over a year, and it really just threw her into just terrible place for the longest time.
Yep.
But I remember her saying very specifically to me that, I know, Joe, that you would tend to want to give an answer. You tend to want to make me feel better, and do something, because that's what guys do, right? We want to fix it. But she said, here's what I know. I just need you to be here. You don't have to say anything. You don't have to do anything. Just be here. And that was what was helpful. That was what she needed at the time.
Yep. And it's really wise advice.
Yeah.
Really sage advice. I'm a big admirer of Henry Nouwen.
Yes, absolutely. One of my favorites.
His book In Memoriam was the first one I read, and it was like, wow, such honesty.
Right.
My mother's dying. I'm a priest. I lectured Harvard and Cambridge, and I'm all over the world. I'm not coping. And I went, yes, thank you for that huge gift of honesty.
Right. Absolutely.
I found out he'd lived part-time near my parents' house for 20 years. And I'm like, oh no, all that wisdom, literally bike ride away. And I didn't even know he existed until after he'd passed. And it was like, well, there you go.
Thankfully, he put all of his wisdom in a book so we can still have access to it.
Yes. Well, I still subscribe to the Henry Nouwen Society's newsletter.
Yeah.
And so they're still going through his old letters and putting together more books and booklets of his wisdom, because I love that he was a good bridge back to faith for many people.
Yeah. So if you're listening in and you've never heard of Henry Nouwen, I believe it's HenriNouwen.
Yes.
HenriNouwen. It's well worth any time you spend with Henry Nouwen is time well spent.
Oh, and his book I mentioned, In Memoriam, it's only something like 70 pages long, and it's chock full. One of my friend's spouses died very suddenly young at like 42. And she's like, Michael, I haven't slept for 3 weeks. I don't know what to do with myself.
Right.
I fall asleep for 20 minutes here and 10 minutes there. And my sister's driving me around to necessary appointments for my business, but because I can't trust myself behind the car. So I said, so I sent her Henry's book, and she went, okay, that might be the most profound thing I've gotten since my husband passed. It's remarkable. And right. I agree. For anybody in grief, it's, to me, a must read. And in the beginning, it kept going out of print. So I wrote the publisher and said, it's like this. You either learn to keep it in print, because being out of print for 6 months to a year at a time, I give these out at funerals, saying, here's something to read tomorrow or in 6 months or 2 years.
Yeah, right.
No time pressure.
Right.
Can't sleep at 3 a.m, read a paragraph. Anyways, said, you put it out of print repeatedly. Quit thinking small, 5,000 copies at a time. Start printing 6,500 or 7,500. You can do better than this. And when you don't have it in print, I go to the photocopy shop. I'm willing to send you money for every one I've printed off, but you got to put, I never heard back. But I printed off like 20 bootleg copies because it was that powerful. It's the only time I've done that with a book. Yeah. But just that sort of, so to me, being resilient is also about not forcing your views and information on others, just saying, here it is. It could be supplemental, it could be useless, or it could be the most powerful thing you read in a decade.
That's right, yeah.
And I remember going to a childhood friend's parents' funeral, and I gave them all, after everything was done and people were leaving, this is for later. And 2 of them never got back to me about it, and the other one went, we are all enjoying them. And my parents would love you for this, because, as you know, they were Catholic, and Henry was Catholic. And I said, well, he walked in faith in such a wide, powerful way, in a gentle, powerful way, that how can you not share his word?
Absolutely. So take us back, Michael, to where you were when you've basically been given a death sentence. You've been told this cancer is going to kill you. You've still got your sense of humor. How did that happen? And so where did the resiliency that you have, where does that come from?
Well, I was blessed that one of the things that I tell parents to do is tell them about how you got here. Tell them about your story of adversity, 1 or 2 or 3 of them. Tell them your aunties and uncles' stories. Tell them your grandparents' adversity stories. So I knew about my mother's brother being murdered in the workplace, and suddenly, at 6 years old, the breadwinner for the family is killed, murdered in the workplace. And then back in the 1900s in World War I, the opposing side sent assassins to North America to take out troop movement experts, or logistic experts, they would say nowadays. So he was one of the 4 logistics experts. This enemy combatant got into Canada, then the U.S. Thank heavens to the U.S. people caught him. But she lost the guy that fed the family and paid the rent. And her dad, who was permanently in bed with an illness, dragged himself out of bed 3 days after the funeral and got killed at the train yard looking for where his son was killed.
Wow.
So my grandmother, 3 days apart, had two traumas that are beyond comprehension to me for a 6-year-old to have to cope with. It's 1915. Her brother had life insurance to pay for a funeral, but there was nothing else left for food or rent. So the family got spread around the whole province or state. So grandma went to one auntie and uncle, another 2 kids with another auntie and uncle. A great auntie took one of the older kids. So she didn't get her family back together until she was like 15. So it was like, and she's still here and she's still got a sense of humor. Yeah. And she's raised 5 kids. And what do you mean they went bankrupt in the Depression? What do you mean for the sake of $43 they lost the land they were close to finishing paying off? And because it was the Depression, it got sold for pennies, so they didn't really get anything back.
Right.
Whoa, and she's still standing and she's happy. So that was like,
that's remarkable.
She's 25% of me, like, you know. Yeah. Oh, and this grandmother. Oh, and grandfather. And this grandfather had 3 brothers killed in World War I? Wow. And he was in World War I in the Mediterranean theater. And his only comment about war he ever said to me, because he was very quiet, didn't talk about war, was, only thing about being in the Merchant Marine is you weren't allowed to fight back. If you're going to bomb me and strafe the ship I'm in while I'm repairing things, give me something to shoot with.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So he was 107, 109 pounds of incredible feistiness. So as my dad said, this is a man, when somebody was nasty to him at 16 or 18, he went out and bought a jar of honey, diluted it, and poured it on the guy's head and said, maybe that'll sweeten you up and you'll stop being so nasty to the rest of us.
Awesome. Fantastic.
I don't advocate warm honey diluted to be poured on anybody's head, but right. I've always looked back and thought, that's sort of like pieing. You know, North America went through that pie phase of pieing politicians and people you didn't like.
Right.
Rude, disrespectful, could cause eye damage or worse, but I must admit it's on my radar of things not to do that, you know, I could consider it.
Now, some people, Michael, I'm sure, would tune in to this and they would say, well, maybe it's hereditary. Maybe you either have resiliency or you don't. And it sounds like Michael gets it from his family because they're resilient as well. But I would love to hear your response to that. Is resiliency something that you have or you don't have? Is something that you inherit? Or where does resiliency really come from?
Resiliency is something we learn.
Yes.
So, yes, we all have, based on our personality styles, our personality traits, based on our family history. I mean, my Uncle Jim, who's since passed, was a huge inspiration to me because when I failed grade 9, me? ADD? Oh, no, not a chance. Oh, a butterfly.
Yeah.
Grade 9 was overwhelming. I went from a school of 2 grade 8 classes, 2 grade 7s, and then over there was the JK to grade 4. It's pretty good. 2 grade 8 classes, 2 grade 7 classes. There was only at best 50 of us in grade 8, so you're a 1 of 50. Yeah. 1 of 100 if you include the grade 7s. High school, it was a big regional one because it was small town farm country. So they were, 1,100 of us. There was I think it was 1,005 of us, were not me, bust in, and 95 of us walked to school. So it was just overwhelming. So my uncle, Jim, he found out I failed grade 9. So he told my mother he was coming up for coffee and dessert. Don't want to be there for supper. I want to surprise him. Don't let him know I'm coming. And he took me for a walk and a talk. And he talked about the biggest mistakes he ever made, failing school and not finishing. And then he put it into numbers. So this is none of my business, but you're my nephew and I care for you. Your parents own a house. They're underway. Oh, sure, the bank owns a mortgage on it, but I'm guessing your dad's halfway there. It's none of your business what it's worth at this stage. When you're 13 or 14, you can figure that out. But they have what's called equity. I got a car. I own half, the bank owns half. Trouble is my half gets worth less and less the more I drive it. By the time I pay for it, it won't be worth 30% of what I paid for it. I left school early. I had a leather coat, leather jacket, and a motorcycle, and your dad rode a bicycle to work. And when I was 17 and he was 16, I thought, what a silly boy. Oh, but who stayed and went back to school to get grade 12, and who got his trades papers, and who's gone on and gotten more. I used to tease my dad that he probably had a master's degree if he took all these credits from the 4 local colleges and university night school courses he took. I said, because you ended up with 47 technical staff reporting to you as chief technical guru for Kodak Canada for production. So he said, so there's the thing. It's not fun. If you have problems with school like I did, yuck. But just do your best. Just do your best. So for people who don't have a loving adult, it is tougher. But to have a 30-something-year-old uncle admit that failing and dropping out was the biggest mistake of his whole life, and he would pay the price for the rest of his life, boy, did he get my attention.
Yeah.
Wow.
And he presented it in such a way, too, that you could actually hear it and receive it. Because sometimes people share that type of wisdom, but they do it in such a way that it turns you off or turns you away or makes you think that you can't access it.
He did not talk down to me.
Yeah.
He talked about how short-term he had the motorcycle and the jacket. And my dad had a bicycle and wore jeans and had a denim jacket. Because Dad left school at 16 because his father said, we need another income. So Dad did what his father told him to do. The depression was just over their shoulder by months. So, there was bills to pay and people to feed. So I understand. So to have a loving adult, though, share that. Just profound. So it can be learned and you have to seek it out. So I have off camera a shelf of books. Some of them are serious. Some of them are silly. I can see Tuesdays with Maury. I can see Drucker, Post-Capitalism Society. I can see Resilient Factors by Karen and Andrew. Working with Emotional Intelligence by Daniel Coleman. We got to keep feeding it and nurturing it. And we live in a society in North America, at least, that's negatively focused. Because if I can make you feel uncomfortable, maybe you'll buy my stuff and you'll feel gratified. But
right.
A consumerism society does not make us feel gratified in the long term.
Right.
I remember I went to a big event. And I was the only man in the room it was an MBA group, but I got asked to join the group because I'm good at coaching people and finding out their skills so they articulate them and they get a bigger income, get a bigger hiring salary. Anyways, I love helping people grow confidence and competence in their confidence. And I was the only man in the room didn't have a watch. There was a lot of $900 to $10,000 watches in that room.
I'm sure.
There was a lot of achievement rings, not wedding rings, achievement rings, a lot of diamonds and rubies, black onyx, because they'd sold X millions or hundreds of thousands. And I was like, cool. And somebody said, but you don't want one? I said, no, I'm happy for you and I'm pleased. If you like it and you wear it because it means something to you, good for you. Doesn't mean anything to you. I don't care if it's worth $5,000 or $10,000. Mine's all in here.
Right.
Because when I was in the cancer ward, I found out that I was one tough son of a gun. Not because I was smarter, but I was raised to reflect. And in reflecting, it really helped me understand that, so you got an 89 and I got a 61. Doesn't make you a better person. It just means you're a better person the day you wrote that test on that topic.
Right.
That's nice, but it doesn't make you a better person.
Absolutely.
And when your friend's going to bully my friend to steal lunch money, you're going to have to go through me. I still have 3 people from public school hate me because I called them on their behavior. The other 4 that were part of that gang have all gone to prison and disappeared since. They've all just stopped connecting with our childhood friends.
Yeah.
So it's learnable. We have to look for it. I am a big believer in reading, as I said. So I read Og Mandino. Og Mandino has never written anything that replaced my faith, but Og's work supplemented my faith. Yeah. So when I was walking the halls, and I'd said my prayers in my 23rd Psalm and said more prayers, and it's like, okay, my brain says I'm done. I'm not concentrating anymore. It's coming out as rote, and I don't believe prayers work when you just say them because you're filling airtime. But that's me. No. How about if I say some Og Mandino? Oh, creator of all things, help me for this day. I go to the world naked and alone. And I would say that 3 or 4 times and be like, yeah. So I've gone out of my way to create a library of some of that work because Doesn't replace my faith, but it supplements it, still keeps me going in the right direction, and stops the negative marketing messages that are so pervasive in our world from growing roots.
Yeah.
I can watch them and laugh,
Hmm.
but buying your brand of car in red is not going to make me handsomer to meet more women. Not interested. Do I like that color red? Nice choice of red. When I heard that Elon Musk cars had glass in the paint jobs, I've seen some of the red paint jobs and the blue. They're gorgeous, but that doesn't mean that if I drive one, I'm smarter or better than you. It just means I got a cool paint job.
Yeah. In fact, I've heard it said very wisely that when you find something that you really love and appreciate and that you see, our tendency is to think, I need to have it, right? That if to really enjoy it, I must own it, which is a false promise. And It doesn't even fulfill anyway. So to retrain your brain to say, I can really appreciate the beauty or the value or the meaning of somebody else's and say, I'm so happy for you, and be sincerely happy for them, but I don't need it. I don't need it to be fulfilled. I don't need it to be happier. I don't need it to survive.
It's like people. I wouldn't want to be this lady's mother because she was treated terribly for years in Canada. But the author is a Canadian Olympic athlete, medal winner. She's gone as far as to name the first family that mistreated her mother for a couple of years. Because it's like racism and racism. And if you're going to treat a lonely woman nastily, we're going to call you out. It's like, oh, so I've been going, do you know where they live? Do you have a lawyer?
Yeah.
And she said, no, bygones are bygones, except I had to call the first family out because my mother was far better than cattle, and she got treated the same. So being resilient means you draw a line in the sand often for certain things.
That's right.
And people know, and I just posted it today there's no room for nastiness and hate. If you want to be connected with me, that's great. Honored every race, color, creed, gender, preference, age, don't care. But if you're going to allow people to post hate on your page, I don't want anything to do with you because you're 1 degree away from that hate and you're not managing who you are allowing in your life. And that's an insidious infection that grows. So
absolutely. And as you and I both know, usually the people who are throwing the hate, it's because they hate themselves and they have no love. They don't feel any love. They don't feel any love for themselves. And so the only thing they know is to bring other people down to their level because they can't seem to get out of where they are.
So you asked me about resiliency and being genetic or not. And one of the things is to know that resiliency is a process as well.
Yes.
So I would say resiliency starts, something happens, positive or negative. And you don't just need to be resilient when something negative happens. I once worked, the best example I have is with a sales team where they had an 87% failure rate when they promoted people to this position. 87% failure rate. I've never before or since had a client that had an 87% failure rate.
So when someone got promoted to that level, they didn't last.
And within 18 months or less, they were walked off the property with a security guard, a lawyer's letter, and a threat of a lawsuit. I mean, they just wasn't naughty behavior. It was illegal, immoral, all the things that oh my gosh.
Yeah. And very likely these are people who had succeeded and excelled, who got promoted into that position, who then bombed.
I knew some of them. I had met them in 2 and 3 levels as they got promoted up because I worked in an affiliated area.
Yeah.
And there was like, well, we don't know what to do. And so I asked questions like, so what do they get when they get the job? They get a nicer car. I said, okay, but that's not helping them with behavior. Well, we gave them all this more money. That doesn't help them with behavior. And if anything, a bigger expense account and more money helped them act out what they were feeling, which is inappropriately. But I got to talk to one of the persons that somebody tried to act out inappropriately with. It was like, this person over here wanted what? Oh, my Lord. So it came down to they didn't give them the psychosocial, emotional intelligence skills and what we teach Olympic athletes, the what I call resiliency and thriving skills for calmness and focus. And then the culture of that department was, well, you're responsible for $40 million this year. That's X hundreds of full-time jobs and part-time jobs. So don't screw up. Only it was stronger language and it was yelled often.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, it was a fear-based approach to everything.
Right.
And a fear-based approach might work to empty a building when there's a fire, but it doesn't do a lot for long-term, coherent, respectful, positive outcome behavior.
Right.
And so they were like, oh, where do we get that? So it's like, oh my gosh, these people not read? How do you get to be close to $1 billion company and not have a company psychologist on board that's performance-based? Yes, we need depression, schizophrenia, all these things are really important. But when it's positive pressure, there used to be what they called corporate psychology. You get a degree in corporate. So one of my mentors, Nick, hi Nick, if you watch, life-changing when I was 19 to 21 at Sears, he had a degree in a PhD in corporate psychology. So he was always saying, now your approach, your rate of walking to the client was perfect. Your speech was perfect. And you acknowledged the grandma that was probably financing this couple's lawn tractor, and you nailed it. And then the next time you go, walking, great, but you didn't approach the child. You didn't acknowledge them at all, and they acted out because they were being ignored. Next time, acknowledge the kid too. In fact, when you're talking to the mom or the dad making this $1,000 purchase, wave at the kid. Just genius. I mean, I just love them for it because I was good raw material. I was good clay. I'd worked at a mom and pa who had helped pull me along. My mother could have been a sales coach. Michael, eye contact, nod, smile, look away, be thoughtful. Eye contact, nod, smile, look away, be thoughtful.
Love that. Yeah.
Anyways, so we can learn these things. And so Nick taught me resiliency, social skills. When things happen, we tend to shrink away if we're overwhelmed, or if we've had some skills and some practice, we lean in and say, I'm going to stretch into this discomfort to make it happen. So it's not that we're smarter than one another when one's more resilient, but one of the skill sets or names is to practice things in advance is called preframing. In other words, how are you going to frame this issue? How are you going to see this issue when it starts? So before we started this call tonight, I pre-framed it that you and I get along really well.
Right.
And so for the listeners, I tease but respectfully say smarter, handsomer, younger, faster, but that's okay. I'm old. I got sharp elbows. I can tease them and make them laugh and distract them to,
That's right.
Contest.
Yeah.
And so pre-framing, like my dad with my bicycle riding, Michael, you're going to learn to ride a bicycle now. You've done good on the tricycle. You're very safe. That's why you're allowed to have a bicycle now, because you've stopped, you look, you listen. It's a safe place here, but it only takes one person having a bad day to hurt you. So you need to look out for you.
Great.
Okay, Dad. So now, bicycling and tricycles, they both do steering. No change. Except that in bicycling, you have balance to pay attention to, which can affect steering. So it's a part of steering, but it's a part of riding a bike. Braking, same as the tricycle, you're going to go backwards. It's a long time ago, okay? Your bike, you went backwards to brake. You do that on your tricycle, you do that on your bicycle. Again, you got it nailed. Okay, now steering and pedaling and safety braking. Now we're going to talk balance, except I'm going to take care of that for the first few practice runs. My dad had legs of steel. It took me the whole summer to learn. It was gravel road. It was oversized gravel. Up and down, up and down, up and down.
Wow.
I didn't ride comfortably till the next summer. I put the bike away for 6 weeks and chased my friends all over because they were all learning to ride. It was a new subdivision of new families with a whole lot of 1-year-olds to 8-year-olds. There was bicycles everywhere and tricycles everywhere.
Right.
But reframing, steering, pedaling, braking, and safety. It's like, oh, it just took the intimidation out of it. And I'm going to help you with hold the back of your seat and help you with your balance. So pre-frame an issue.
That's cool.
And so not everybody's comfortable with it.
Yeah.
I mean, I pre-frame going in for all my surgeries. Somebody's like, why would you do that? I said, well, I'm going to go in with a bunch of experts. They're very busy saving lives and helping stabilize health and dealing with grief. They're human. Not all their patients live because they come in when it's too late, car accidents, etc. So I'm going to go in that I'm the calmest patient they've ever had, the most respectful patient they ever had, who's willing to be silly to make them laugh. And over my multiple trips in, I said things like, there's frequent flyer points. Why don't you have a frequent stitchers card? 10,000 points for every hour in OR. I'd have enough frequent stitcher points to get a little facelift. maybe even a tummy tuck. Maybe these love handles could be taken care of. I said, in 10 points for every medical staple, and I've had enough staples you could build a small car from the leftover metal. Oh, I exaggerate, maybe a bicycle. And just good old stitches. Come on. Yeah, how are you supposed to incentivize everybody to come to this hospital instead of that one? Of course, public medicine in Canada, who cares where you go, unless there's a certain expert for a certain issue. So I got to the point where that even if I wasn't their doctor, they'd come and visit at the bedside. Hey, Michael, I heard you're in for a tune-up. Your words, not ours. I said, yeah, I had some warranty work. I had to come back. I was hoping, like Cracker Jacks, there'd be a prize, but it seems you didn't wear your watch and lose it when we last operated, so we're good. And it was just nonsense talk, but
right.
It's amazing how the interaction built up.
Sure.
I had professionals come to me after their hours when they were done. They clocked out saying, just drop a by and say hello. Thanks for today. And I'm thinking, well, you're welcome, but wow, okay.
Yeah.
And when my first go around, I was in Halifax and I had moved there for work with my spouse and had no relatives in Halifax. And back in the day when it was $2,500 airfare, return for my parents to visit, they came down for a week, took a week's holiday, said if things change better or worse, we'll be back. So they were there before my surgery, stayed for 3 or 4 days after surgery and left. So this one nurse said, I just moved to town 3 weeks ago. Can I visit when I'm after hours? Because, again, Tuesdays was the day, spouse, don't come. Take a couple days off a week. Go home, have a bubble bath. Pour 2 large glasses of wine. Not at the same time, just, you know. And so she brought a guitar. Michael, you are so much like my brother, it's uncanny. Can I sing? Sure. I got in-house entertainment. It was awesome. There was nothing going on. There was no other plans after I got out. It was just lonely nursing professional, friendly cancer patient trying to survive. And she said, you're so much like my mother, my brother, it hurts. So with your permission, you're my surrogate brother. She played 12-string really well, had her master's degree, had intelligent conversation 3 times. Then I heard through the grapevine, the VP of nursing said it was inappropriate to visit patients. And I'm thinking, oh, somebody's pickle stuck in somewhere. But anyways,
right.
It was marvelous. So preframing is a skill set to pay attention to. What am I going to expect?
Yeah.
And how am I going to help? Now, my dad didn't call it that, but he was very good at it. And a couple of times, because he was well known in the neighborhood, we once had a gentleman drunk out of his mind show up with a loaded shotgun looking for his wife.
Oh, boy. Yikes.
Oh, yeah. And my dad's like, because I knew him, he was on my paper route. Mike, upstairs with your mother. Oh, hi, I'm saying to the guy, and I'm not recognizing that he's weaving and there's a loaded shotgun. It's not even broken like you would as a hunter. It's ready for action. He's looking for her. She's left him again. Did you have anything to do with it? And my dad, just gentle as can be, as I walk back up the stairs, like, why is my dad bossing me around? He doesn't boss me around. He just gives gentle direction and I follow. But the urgency in his voice was, get the out of here.
Right.
So he says to him by name, so what's it today? Is it beer or rum? Dad liked his rum. 2 glasses Friday night. Sometimes 1 Friday night and Saturday night, but it was like if he had 3 in a week, it was a big deal. So rum was his bridge. And this guy was like, both. My dad went, don't have any in the house. Lie to offer, but it's always nice to have a good drink, isn't it? Instead of saying you drunken bum, you.
You want to take him off now.
He calmed him down.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened, but if I remember correctly, the shotgun shells were left at our house. And then Dad did some phoning to the in-laws, to the spouse's place of work. And I don't know what happened. All I just know is he diffused the situation in the moment.
Right.
Nobody got killed later. That I do know for sure, but it wasn't something Dad wanted to talk about. He said it's just too unpleasant. It's too much pain in that family unresolved. And the bottle's not going to hide it, which was like, I think I got my first therapy lesson from my father with those words.
Sure, yeah. You know, that situation right there, that story you just told, reminds me of what we've all heard growing up, is that in times of stress and great duress, there's kind of the 3 natural responses: fight, flight, or freeze, right?
Yep.
But fighting and fleeing and freezing aren't necessarily solutions. They're just They're just our stress response.
Yeah.
What your dad did is something completely different.
He went into flow. That's that 1989 research. He went into flow. That's that 1989 research. His mother had given him the gift of presence in a big way. And so just stand there, be grounded, own your space. So, Mr. X, it's good to see you today. Oh, that's unfortunate. Beer or wine today? What's your beverage of choice? You know, I hate beer, but I love my rum, but there's just none home. Oh, so he's distracting but connecting and engaging at the same time.
Wow, amazing.
Meanwhile, he's trying to get me out from like 5 or 6 or 7 years old. Get out of this door.
Right. Just in case something goes bad, I don't want you in the line of fire.
Yeah. And so it was quite remarkable. So preframing is what you're thinking as you're in it. So I had a short contract on the other side of town, and it was just cheaper and easier to take the bus. So take the bus. I'm coming home one night in a real bad rainstorm. I was working with some lumberyard folks and doing a little sales training. And darned if this guy doesn't come on. And if anybody can look drunk and stoned and high at the same time, he was the one. And it's like, okay, Michael, you're not invincible. You're getting to be vintage. I got robbed by a motorcycle gang at 19, and I helped them steal more to distract them. That's my idea of fighting, okay? I had 6 at 16, and I'm 19. I'm the senior guy on staff. My first day as supervisor, too. My manager hid under his desk after he locked his door and drew the blinds, so I knew I was solo for management. So I helped them steal. Well, this guy gets on, and he walks up and down the aisle like he's the man in charge, and there's 5 older guys like me and 1 young guy and this lady. And he comes up, and and she crumples. And I'm like, what just happened? And the bus driver is like all of a sudden scared.
Yeah.
This guy is dangerous.
Sure.
But luckily, 5 of the 6 guys stand up. I push the button. I said, you got to get off. Next stop. Otherwise, it could be the worst night of your life. And I tried to look very vigorous.
Right. Yeah, that's right.
Because the woman on the floor is more important to me than this trash bag.
Yeah.
And I know that sounds very judgmental, but if you're going to
in that
on the ground, you're a trash bag. We'll deal with your growth and repentance and forgiveness later, because in the moment, it's the older lady on the floor. Yeah. Anyways, but it's the middle of nowhere. I said, better middle of nowhere than look around. There's 5 of us. What are you going to do? Anyways, he got off. But I always frame myself that I'm going to be calm, not risk anybody's safety, because you don't want to call them out on it with words to the point you agitate them and they explode.
Yeah.
You just want to gently say, hey, it's time to get off right now. And when he saw the young guy got up, who was like linebacker size, I went, yes, thank you, buddy. Because I made contact with him. I was nodding at all of them, and I'm looking at him going, off now. Yeah. And the bus driver never talked. Too scared. My uncle got beat up by a drunk when he was a bus driver. It's not a nice job. Far too many people think that they're just a servant, literally.
Yeah, right.
Anyway, so pre-framing, framing is what do you want to be in the moment as you're experiencing it. So riding that bike, I'm a good steerer. My dad said, repeat after me. You steer well. And I did. You brake well. You need to work on balance, though. A lot of work on balance.
Yeah.
But my phys ed coach, Mr. Sargentson, who since passed, taught me pre-framing and framing for sports. I didn't have a lot of body confidence at 13. Oh, I could go to a school dance and dance the night away. People were like, how'd you do that? How'd you do that? I said, I don't know. I just having fun. I needed an extra 2 feet around me, though, because arms went everywhere. I wasn't the best person to dance with. I just fun to dance near.
Right.
And so Mr. Sargentson, Michael, when you go to catch a football, you have to see it being thrown. You have to see it coming before it's actually there. You put your hands up. See it coming between your hands. Tell yourself, I'm catching this. I'm catching this. I've caught it. And it was like, he taught me visualization skills. So while I was fighting my cancer, he was in my head every day. Talk about a powerful coach.
Wow.
So I got to see him in his 70s at a school reunion. I said, you taught me how to catch a football. Do you remember? No, because by then he was vice principal. He'd been teaching for 30 plus years. Remarkable man. He treated us all like the most important student he'd ever had. Just he had some of his kids go to be all state or all province, all Canada, top 10. He really knew how to nurture you and make you come forward and do better. He said, so I'm in the cancer ward, and I got a lot of pain issues. What would Mr. Sargentson say? I said, of course, I know you know, but we never said it to your face. What would Fast Eddie say? I said, because when you're in your 30s and really old to a 13-year-old, you did at least every third class. You did everything we did. We were really impressed. You didn't talk. You did. I talk about a role model.
Yeah.
So I said, you taught me how to catch a football. I transferred that on how to breathe, how to deep breathe and be calm, because I am now an athlete in the cancer ward. And you were there invisibly coaching me. And I love that, man. And I love him forever, because he was the first one to teach me visualization. He could have just looked at me and said, another flaky kid that means well, but he's useless. I'm going to focus on my award-winning athletes. Because I had 3 kids in my class in grade 9 that were provincial competitors. One of them still in the top 100 for North America for long-distance marathons at 65 and older.
Wow.
So when you're in the same class as 3 kids that are state, provincial, or national championship levels, it's hard to shine.
Yeah, for sure.
He paid attention to all of us. And in my bad football being one of them, he never made fun. It just, okay. And basketball, he actually left the room. I want you to score yourself 10 of basket shots. If you give yourself more than 6, though, I get to test you. I got 1 in, gave myself a 4. He said I was harsh on myself. I said, well, that's close to the truth. Big grin. He was trying to help me pass the class.
Sure, yeah. Well, this really, what you're talking about right now, it really goes back to our question about, is resiliency inherited, is it DNA, or is it learned? Because your coach probably never used the word visualization. He probably didn't even know what that meant necessarily, but he was teaching you that skill. And so you learned from these different sources, from your dad, from your uncle, from your coach, skills that then you applied in the moment of when you most needed it and made a huge difference in your life.
Changed everything. And the one that we hear about, preframe, frame, is the reframe. What didn't work? At one point, I had 3 doctors telling me there was nothing wrong. And my very petite, physically small nurse came in and asked me some questions. And then she said, Michael, have any of them, and she went through 3 things, checked your blood pressure, checked your heart rate. And of course I had a block bowel that had twisted, and if you took my t-shirt off, it looked like a fist was starting to come out of me and hurt. Oh, but when they said, does it hurt? I'd say, yeah, it's a 10 out of friggin' 10. But I'd taken enough martial arts that I was doing the deep breathing. In with calmness, out with the pain. In with calm, but every heartbeat was making my head ring. I was off the charts. I found out later that they would taught that if I had that level of pain, I would be calling them names. I would be questioning their mother's marital status and sexual preferences with wild animals.
Yeah.
And I'm like, but I told you it was a 10 out of 10. Well, they kept apologizing even as I went into emergency OR. And that little tiny nurse went and got a 4th doctor who came in and did the workup as per what the nurse said should have been done. And then I heard him lecture them. And then the next thing I know, code blue. 6th floor. So the next thing you know, the elevators come up, they wheel me in. And there's where the frame, reframe. I don't know if I mentioned it last time, but it's the 23rd of March. It's 23 minutes to 12. It's my birthday. I'm not counting backwards from 100. You sing me happy birthday, I'll be out by the second happy birthday. Michael, be quiet. This is important. It's urgent. Sing me happy birthday. They started singing me happy birthday. I was down in the second birthday. I sucked in deep. I didn't come to for 28 hours. And boy, was I in tough shape. But I had a world-class experience, and I got a room of OR people to sing me happy birthday. It took 3 seconds, but it also changed the mood, right?
It really did.
I had people around the room crying because they knew that they had not listened to me, and their training was flawed.
Yeah.
Because not everybody is going to take deep breaths when they have deep pain, because you don't get pain when you have a bowel problem. They wait till they diagnose it. They kept saying, oh, it'll go away. It'll go away. No, it won't. Anyways, so I learned from that speak up and get a little louder. And I was so used to just saying, hey, it hurts. They took care of me. But that particular time, I should have done this.
Drive it home. Drive it home.
Wow, live and learn.
We only have a few minutes left in this conversation, and we will have more.
Yes,
but
please.
I want people to take away from this conversation. I mean, quite honestly, as I hear you describe what you've gone through, you and I both know that you are in the very small percentile of people who will go through a situation that stressful, that life-threatening, that painful, with a sense of humor, with a sense of resilience, with knowing that, okay, if I go in with the right mentality and I concentrate on the right things and I speak up.
Oh, we froze.
Better chance of that, right? Can you hear me? Yeah.
Now I can. You froze for a minute.
Yeah. Which, fright or freeze. I just did the freeze right there.
A demo, a live demo.
Right, live demo. Case in point, right here. But why do you think? I mean, we only got a few minutes left, Michael, and we'll talk about this more. But why do you think that the people who have the skills, have learned the skills to do what you've done and what many people who you know have done, is really the exception to the rule as opposed to the norm?
Well, part of my answer is it's scary to learn because you have to take responsibility for your thinking and behavior, short and long term.
So from victim mentality to I'm in control or I'm making choices. Yeah.
So somebody said, but you could have died in Halifax when you had surgery, cancer in 4 places. I said, yes. However, rational, emotional, physical, spiritual, and social. I might have physically died, but I was going to go out on top in 4 other categories.
Wow.
Rational, emotional, spiritual, and social. Because I had built a team of 200 plus people who were writing me notes once a week, once a month. My mother's friend sent me a purple hyacinth in full glory in a gardening hat with gardening gloves saying, you're going to plant this in a few weeks, right? Projecting me being healthy enough to be home and planting flowers.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Betty Simmons is one of my superheroes. She's 92, 93 now, going on 62.
Yeah.
And yeah, so it's taking responsibility, but also, sadly, there's an elitism in some areas where you have to spend $10,000 on this and $5,000 for that and $9,000 for this, and you'll get pieces of it. So I've been spending and investing, and I want to bring it to the point where people can get it for a few dozen dollars.
Yeah.
Because I need to earn a living. But if it cost me $3,000 in the 90s to learn those 3 skills from an Olympic athlete coach, I need to get some of that back off everybody, even if it's $3 each. And then, oh, this one over here, they have a doctorate in positive mental health. Oh, there's 2 more skills. And oh, I just took this course, preframe, frame, and reframe. All righty, let's get it out there. It completes the triad because I was talking about framing and reframing. So the preframe was, so that elitism bothers me to no end. And so somebody said, but it's a special club. You don't want everybody to know this. Make the competition stiffer. I went, oh, first of all, not everybody's going to do this.
Right.
They don't have the ability to read the books and take the courses and watch the videos and listen to the audios. Right. But so what if it goes from 19% of us use some of it? Imagine if 25% of the whole world knew all of it and 25% of us used most of it. It would change everything for all of us.
Yeah.
My 2 surgeons, to wrap up as I know our clock's ticking, both at the end of 9 years of study went back to school for 6 more months. Because over there in Europe, they have a more advanced surgery, totally different than the rest of the whole world. I don't know about you, but I went to school for 5 semesters, and after the 5th semester, I was 1 semester extra. So I was done because I'd gone extra. I look back at 1 more semester, and I had a degree instead of a diploma. Would have changed my income by 11%, but because of failing high school a couple of times, I was so done with school. So live and learn.
So in our last minute together on this episode, Michael, tell people where can they find out more of what you're talking about? I know you're creating sources and outlets, resources for people. How do they find the information that you're sharing?
If they go on to Facebook and look for Resiliency for Life, and there's the spelling RESILIENCY, Resiliency for Life. We have a group. You apply. I let everybody in. I've only kicked out 9 people out of several thousand. That's because I don't allow any hate speech in my group.
Yeah. Nearly 4,000 people now in that group.
Yeah, we're 5 or 6 people shy of 4,000, and I'd like to get it to 5,000 by the end of July. So we'll just see. It's not urgent, but the more people I get in there, the more others are willing to share things with me in the theme of resiliency and thriving and flourishing.
Right.
And then I have a Michael H Ballard website that's holding a place where we've taken 12 books of poetry themed on faith from 1920s to 1960s by Grace Noel Kroll. And we've got them digitized and put them on Amazon. So eventually we'll have them on my website as well to buy, because this was a lady whose one book was reprinted 27 times.
Oh, wow.
So she has a book on songs of courage, songs of hope, songs of faith, songs of triumph. Those are 4 of my favorite books.
Love it.
So those are extra ways to supplement our faith, not replace, but supplement. Right. And I like it that most of her poetry hints at faith, doesn't beat you over the head with a mallet. I'm not very good at being beat over the head. It doesn't make me more faithful and you want to beat me over the head.
No,
she's more
it leaves marks on your head. That's all it does.
She's more of a feather duster approach, you know,
like
in the right direction, give you some uplifting words. So she was the first female poet laureate for the state of Texas. She was a Woman of the Year in the U.S. Twice from 2 different groups. So that's one of the projects we've been working on in the last year. And then last year we wrote a book of 31 stories of resilience from 31 of us that have been through our own big stuff moments.
That's right. Is that published now? Is that book published?
That's published on Amazon, so it's available in ebook around the world, and then softcover in several countries and hardcover in North America.
What's the title of that book?
30+1 Resilient Stories.
Yes, right. And then you said michaelhballard.com, is that right?
Yes. Yeah.
And is there a Resiliency for Life website as well?
I just took it down. It points to Michael H Ballard. We've got to get them. We've got to get the Resiliency for Life site reborn, and I thought the best way to do that was to throw the old one away.
Very good. Yeah.
Hundreds of hours of effort gone.
Now you got to do some pre-framing, framing, and reframing. And if you need any help with the website, I know a guy who does that for a living, so maybe I can help you out there.
Okay.
Hey, for everybody who tuned in, thank you for spending time with us. We realize that time is a precious and non-renewable resource, and so if you spend time with us, then you're choosing not to do something else. So Michael and I both, we sincerely care that people gain resiliency, because resiliency can make or break it. And we all know the statistics about suicide and depression and all the things that have spiked during COVID. Resiliency is one of the keys, maybe the key, to survive, not just survive, but to thrive. So to go from fight and flight and flee to flourish, you need to learn resiliency. And so we're going to continue these conversations. Michael's got some frameworks and some roadmaps that can help you get from where you're stuck to where you're flourishing, and we'll talk about that later. So thanks for tuning in again today. Michael, thanks for spending an hour with me, and I look forward to speaking with you again soon.
Talk soon.
Bless you.
Travel safe.